Hi everyone, a very good afternoon, guys. Hi everyone. Please keep your cameras on. Amrita, you can chat in the class. So a lot of students join the classes from like in inter and final also. I just ask them to chat because I keep my eyes on the chat box, so no worries at all. Right now, let me share. Okay, so what is the topic we promised? Chapter 3 का cover करेंगे. See, chapter 3 will take some time, है ना? Like even tomorrow we are going to utilize the time for chapter 3 because वो थोड़ा difficult areas है. So we have to learn all the points. Today our target was to complete the internal controls, right? Now, before jumping straight to the questions, let's at least discuss
Recording in progress.
how many topics you have to study in internal controls. Probable है internal control से क्वेश्चन आने का आपके एग्जाम में, right? जस्ट एक बार सिर्फ ओवरव्यू ले लो कि टॉपिक में पूछने क्या वाला है आपको. लाइक यू नो व्हाट आर द टॉपिक्स दे आर गोइंग टू कवर इनटू internal controls. One, the meaning and the purpose of internal control. Then, objective of internal control. What are the benefits of understanding the internal control? What are the limitations of internal control? Then, starting point five, it will be very important from the exam point of view. First, you have to understand the component of internal control. Then you have to understand the controls relevant to audit, controls over completeness and accuracy of information, controls over safeguarding of assets, then control relating to objective that are relevant for audit, and the nature and extent of understanding the relevant controls. All these, like total of 10 topics are there in your syllabus related to control. First four are basic, meaning, objective, under benefits and limitations. Point 5, very specific. COSO, under COSO framework, they have given you the components of internal control. Point 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are very specific nature of controls that you have to understand. Do you have all these topics in your books, guys, in your content? Can you please trace if you're studying from a study mat or any topic? From any book, any material you are referring to? Got that, everyone? All right. The very first topic that you have to study over here is what is the purpose of internal control, meaning and purpose of internal control. Please learn this by heart. Meaning and purpose of internal control. Where is the definition given? The definition is given as part of ISA 315. What is the meaning of internal control? It is a process. What process? A process which is designed, implemented, and maintained. By whom? By TCWG management and other personnel. Why? To provide the reasonable assurance. About what? About achievement of entity's objective. You have to break down the definition and learn it by heart. That internal control is a process which is designed, implemented, and maintained. By whom? By TCWG management and other personnel. Why? To provide a reasonable assurance of what? That entity has achieved its objectives. What objectives? Four objectives. Four objectives you have. One, entity's first objective is to ensure that the financial reporting done by the entity is reliable. Second, entities' operations are operating effectively and efficiently. Entities' assets are safeguarded and entities complying with the laws and regulation. Priya, can you please repeat the definition of or the meaning of internal control?
The term internal control defined as the process or designed and implemented and maintained by those charged with governance and management and other personnel to provide reasonable assurance about the achievement of the entity's objectives, relating to the reliability of financial statements, effectiveness and efficiency of the operations, and safeguarding of assets and compliance with the laws and regulations.
Remember this always, right? Done, guys? Moving to the next topic, objectives of internal control. There are 4 objectives of internal control. The first objective that you have first 4 objectives that you have studied, they are objectives of, they are entities objective that entities achieving through the process of internal control. This is, you are studying objective of internal control. What is the objective of internal control? First, the transactions are executed with proper authorization. What did I say? The transactions are executed with proper authorization. Where you have to write this? Go back to your concept, go back to your question bank, and wherever you have the question bank or the writing practice book, and there is a question. Internal control over safeguarding of assets against the unauthorized acquisition, use, and disposition may include control relating to both financial reporting and operational objectives. Explain stating clearly the objective of internal control. The question is explain stating clearly the objective of internal control. Yes. So there are 4 objectives of internal control. What was the first objective I said? The transactions are executed as per management's general and specific authorization. Second objective of internal control, all transactions. Second point is regarding all transactions are promptly recorded. How? In correct amount, in appropriate account, and in correct accounting period. All transactions are promptly recorded in correct amount, in appropriate account, and in correct accounting period. Please write this down. Promptly recorded. In correct amount, in correct account, in, what was the third one?
Correct accounting period.
Correct accounting period. What is the third objective? Third objective is actually given in your exam only. So that is where you need to understand what question they have asked. one of the point they will pick as a question, and on the basis of which they will ask certain question. I'll tell you, they have picked the one point of the answer itself to ask this question, objective of internal control. So the third objective of internal control is assets are safeguarded from unauthorized access, unauthorized use, unauthorized disposition. Like nobody should be able to dispose of the assets, sell of the assets without proper authorization from the management. Nobody should be able to use entities' assets for their personal uses. Nobody should be able to access the entities' assets unless and until they have been given the access. What is the fourth objective? This is again related to assets only. Recorded assets are verified with physical assets at regular interval. You call this as physical verification of inventory, physical verification of the fixed asset. That needs to be done at regular interval. And appropriate action are taken for differences. Nirai, can you please keep your camera on? Done? Guys, are we clear? What are so the first 2 points are related to transaction. The next 2 points are related to assets. One is about the safeguarding of asset and second is about the physical verification of the assets. Yes? You have to remember this till the exams, right? Nirai, can you please read question number 17? Once you please complete your writing first. Please complete it.
Ma'am, is it audible?
Yeah.
Yes. Can I read, ma'am?
Yes, please.
Auditor GR and associate have been appointed to conduct audit of PNG Limited, a manufacturing company engaged in manufacturing of various food products. While planning an audit, the auditor do not think that it would be necessary to understand internal control. Advise the auditor in this regard, explaining clearly the benefits of understanding the internal control.
This question was given in RTP. Like they ask in the exam also, not necessarily you have to go by the reference key when it was asked. Every question is important, or you have to consider that, right? Now, so what are they asking you? What are the benefits of? What are the benefits of internal control? There are 3 benefits of understanding the internal control. First, it will help you identify the potential misstatement. Just read the first part of it, right? It will help you identify the potential misstatement. The yellow portion is written in Hindi, so you don't have to read that. The second, it will help you identify the factors that affect the risk of material misstatement. So for example, if you find that there is a risk that the rate of or the value of sales is not calculated correctly because there is some problem into the system. This is a risk that the value is not getting calculated correctly. So when you check the internal controls, you find the root cause or the factor that why this risk has arisen. That is identifying the factor. So what is the benefit of understanding the internal control? It will help you identify the factors due to which the risk is arising. And the third benefit is once you understand the internal control, then you can decide how many or how much of the audit procedures you have to apply, how much sampling you have to select, how many audit, test of details, analytical procedure you have to do. So it helps you designing the nature, time, and extent of further audit procedure. What are the three benefits of internal control? One, it helps you identify the potential misstatement. Second, it helps you identify the factors that affect the risk of material misstatement. And third, it will help you determine the nature, time, and extent of further audit procedure. Please scribble this in your notes wherever you are writing the answers. The auditor shall understand the internal controls relevant to audit. Although most controls relevant to the audit are likely to relate to the financial reporting, but not all controls that relate to financial reporting are relevant to the audit. It is the matter of auditor professional judgment whether a control individually or in combination is relevant to the audit. This is they have given just as a context. You don't have to memorize it as it is, right? In context, you can give based on your own knowledge, but benefits are these three. First, you have to identify the type of potential misstatement. Second, it helps in identify the factors that affect the risk of material misstatement. Third, it helps in determining the nature, time, and extent of further audit procedures. Right. Quickly. In keywords only. Another basic question that will come into your exam. Briefly discuss the limitation of internal control. Many times they ask this question: what are the limitations of internal control? See, just because entity has designed and implemented internal control, that doesn't give any guarantee that you will not find a single error in the financial statement. Are you understanding? Internal controls are designed and implemented to prevent any error to happen. Prevention is there, right? But that doesn't guarantee that that error will not happen or the fraud will not happen. Because what if the people who are responsible for implementing the controls, they are the one colluding, or they are the one who knows how to bypass any control, right? That is what you might have heard in the government agencies happening, government department happening. The people who are responsible for governing this country, they are only corrupt. So no matter how many internal controls you put, the people who want to do the fraud, they can still do the fraud. So that is the limitation of internal control. One of the limitation, there are more limitations to internal control, right? The first limitation to internal control is IC only provides reasonable assurance. Internal control only provides reasonable assurance. Second limitation is there is human judgment involved in decision making. Third, there can be lack of understanding the purpose of internal control. There can be collusion among the people because there are judgment by management is involved. And last, there are limitations in small entities. Amrita, you have got a very aesthetic library. It's so clean. My library was never that clean. Like I used to have a library in a basement of a building in Mumbai. It was so bad. How many limitations are there, Amrita? Just by signal, just signal me from your fingers. There are 6 limitations,
6 limitations.
right? How many of these limitations out of 6 limitations involve the human being? Out of 6?
3.
4. Human judgment involved in decision making? Lack of understanding of purpose by the people who will understand, the people who are involved in designing, implementing the limitations, like internal control. Then there are collusion among the people, and there is judgment by the management. All point 2, 3, 4, 5 is due to humans. It can be management, it can be other people in the entity. The first point is that IC can only provide a reasonable assurance. It will not give you any guarantee. And in last point is, in case of limited entity, small entities, the owner and the management and everyone is same only. So the people who are in the small entities, for example, if you see my business, Abhi, I am the owner, I am the person executing everything. So I can to only bypass the control na. Like I can put controls and I know where to play with those controls. So like in the small entities, there is no bifurcation. I am the one who is handling my entire business. So it is very difficult to implement internal control in the small entities. But in the large companies, you will definitely have people who are responsible for executing the work and who are responsible for maintaining the or designing the internal controls. Yes, but you cannot just write the side headings. You will have to explain these points a little bit. Okay? When you say IC can only provide the reasonable assurance, you will have to explain no matter how effective are internal controls, it can only provide reasonable assurance regarding achievement of entities' financial reporting objectives. Next is human judgment involved in decision making, which can be faulty and break down the internal controls. Lack of understanding of purpose. If information is not properly used, operation of IC may not be effective. Collusion among the people. Two or more people can collude to override controls. Now, whenever the management is responsible for designing, implementing the controls, yes, it is the management who does that. Now, while doing that internal controls, what management does? Management first identify the risk, then they put the internal controls. What if their judgment of risk is wrong? Their resultant internal controls will be wrong, right? So you have to understand that management assumes risk before designing internal controls. These judgments or assumptions may be inappropriate. Management assumes the risk before designing internal control, and therefore these judgment may go wrong. It can be inappropriate, because of which the internal controls can be. What is the limitation in smaller entities? Segregation of duty, SOD, segregation of duty. Just learn this abbreviation for now, but it will be used later also in your syllabus. Segregation of duty is difficult in small entities. So if I am the person who is making the cash receipt and cash payment entry, and if you give me the cash also to handle, so I can always do that fraud. No, I can take out some money, then I'll redeposit that money. I'll play with the accounting entries accordingly. Smaller companies, every one person handles every entire process. So if there is no segregation of duty, implementation of internal control will be difficult. So this is also the limitation of internal control. It's a good 6 months question. I'm telling this to you, and they are going to ask one question from the internal control. Be very careful what you are writing over there. 4 points related to human. One is about human judgment. Second is about human collusion. Third is about human lacking the understanding of the purpose. Next, human judgment is involved in the decision making. Then one is about the smaller entity, and one is about the reasonable assurance. Did we do the question of benefits of internal control, guys? Question number 17 was benefits of understanding the internal controls, no? Come to question number 18. ABC Limited has many divisions and branches across the country. They have internal control system which is well established management, maintained by the management on the regular basis. Explain the meaning of internal control as per SA 315 and also state the benefits of understanding the internal controls. Can you please quickly write? You already have the benefits, but can you please quickly write? Because I just want to get that assurance that you know how to write the meaning of internal controls with a proper flow chart. Don't write in that paragraph format. You have to write in the proper flow chart, and then just write the in 3 lines, write the benefits of it. I'll show you in the screen how do I write the meaning. So because I learned it that way when I was studying in CA Inter. So you also have to write the full meaning exactly in the similar way, in the same way. Done. Guys, just give me a moment. No, I need some 30 minutes. I didn't have anything since morning actually because I have early morning class as well. No, so I'll go and have my lunch. Will you also take this, utilize this break, just revise everything. If you have already eaten, like if you have not, like, you can finish your meal and then revise whatever we have studied so far. Maybe go through the topics after that as well. And then we will come back. I'll come back and then we'll complete all the questions of internal controls. What do you say? Right? I might extend the class a little bit till 3:30, quarter to 4 as well. All right. All right. Please join back by 2:15, Hana. Right. Now, let's so in terms of the internal controls, you have understood the basic part of it, right? All the basic questions you have covered in the meaning, the purpose, the benefits, the limitations. But now comes the $1,000,000 question, that are what are the components of internal control? So there are five components of internal control, which is given by the COSO framework. Like for example, there are various factors for internal control, honestly, like in this world that is existing. So there are different institutions who have given the best practices for any industry or any company, that if you want to implement the control, you have to follow these frameworks. Now, in ICI has adopted the COSO framework. So under the COSO committee of sponsorship, the last O stands for something. I'll tell you that one. So under the COSO framework, there are five components to it. Okay. Now, please draw this somewhere in your books. The first component is control environment. So whenever you want to understand entities internal control, first see the environment, control environment, right? This contains the majority of the part. Under this control environment, you have seven elements. So either they will ask you question of to explain all the components of internal control, that total are five, or they will ask you what are the seven elements of control environment. Then you have to understand entities risk assessment process. Then you have to understand entities information system. Then you will understand entities control activities. And then you have to understand how entity monitoring of controls, how entity monitors the internal control. Once you have the understanding of all this, you will be like, yes, I have now understood the controls. Let me go to testing part. So unless and until you have understood all the component of internal control, you cannot test it. Are we clear, guys? Yes. What is the first component of what is the first component of a control environment, or sorry, internal control? That is control environment. Question number 19. Nira, can you please read question number 19?
Okay. The auditor of XY Limited, engaged in FMCG, obtains an understanding of the control environment. As a part of obtaining this understanding, the auditor evaluates whether management has created and maintained a culture of honesty and ethical behavior, and the strength in the control environment element collectively provides an appropriate foundation for the other components of internal control. Advice what is included in the control environment, also explain the element of control environment.
So there are two questions they're asking you. Basically, what point they have mentioned over here, from there itself you should understand that they are talking about the control environment. Plus, they have also mentioned the word control environment. So now you have the overall of understanding that this question pertains to under the internal controls. There are five component of control, internal control. Under that, the first component is control environment, under which there are seven elements. So they are asking you to explain those elements of control environment, right? At least briefly we can explain. What do you say? So whenever they say what is included in the control environment, you have to use the wordings of question itself, right? First, auditor, this is just the context that auditor shall obtain an understanding of control environment as part of understanding. Auditor shall evaluate whether first, auditor shall evaluate whether management, I'm using the line of question itself because they have used the answer to ask the question. So management has created and maintained culture of honesty and ethical behavior. Second, strength of control environment collectively provides the appropriate foundation for other components. Right? Now, because we are learning at this moment, I have explained you to write this as it is, right? But this is only optional because they are asking you two questions. So I always have the habit of at first writing the context, then answering the main thing so that it looks thoda professional. But if you don't have enough time, then you avoid this para and directly answer what is included in the control environment and explain the elements of control environment. So what is included? Control. First, answer A, control environment includes one, governance and management function, and B, attitude, awareness and actions of TCWG and management. Yes, these are the two things included in a control environment. Now, if they ask you the elements of control environment, so there are total of 7 elements of control environment. First element, communication and enforcement of integrity and ethical values. Second, management philosophy and operating style. Third, management's commitment to competence. Fourth, participation by TCWG. See, none of this point is going to the intricate level of controls. They are only talking about the high level. That is how the governance is done, who are doing the governance, the attitude of TCWG and all. So first, they talk about the communication and enforcement of integrity and ethical values in the entire organization. Second, you want to understand the management philosophy. How do they operate? What is their operating style? Then you also have to see management commitment to competence, like how competent they are and what kind of competent people they hire to do the job. Then how much participation is there by the TCWG? Is TCWG involved in the financial statement preparation, like overseeing the financial reporting process? Is TCWG involved in the overseeing the internal controls operations, right? Then understand the organization structure. Then understand the how the hierarchy works in the business, right? Assignment of authority and responsibility. Who is responsible for what? Who has the authority to sign what document? And last, HR policies and procedures. You want me to repeat any of these elements, guys? Alexa, turn on all AC. Alexa, turn on bedroom AC. Pooja, can you please repeat what are the 7 elements? First, what control environment includes, and then what are the 7 elements of a control environment?
Control environment includes the governance and management function and the attitude, awareness, and actions of TCWG and management.
Yes.
And the elements would be communication and enforcement of integrity and ethical values,
Yes.
organization structure, HR policies and procedures, management's commitments to competence, and then assignment of authorities and responsibilities.
Yes. Did you cover participation by
Participation by TCWH.
Right? So these are the 7 elements. Amrita, did you miss this part? This question kya? Or you were here? Amrita, can you hear me?
Yeah.
This is the first component of internal control, that is your control environment that we did. Right? Amrita, did you miss this part? Kya? You came just now? Oh, you are on mute. You are on mute.
I just logged in with my laptop just now. I was in my phone.
Acha, so you were here only. You did this question. Okay, perfect, perfect. Now, a lot of students make this mistake of not reading the content just below this topic in as part of your control environment. That what will happen? Like, for example, you gauge that how the control environment works in that organization. There can be 2 reactions of yours as an auditor. Either you will find the control environment to be satisfactory, or you won't find the control to be satisfactory. Right? What if you found the control environment to be satisfactory? That you are like, no, the control environment is really beautiful. Still, you will have to be alert to understand that control environment is not an absolute deterrent of fraud. That means just because entity has a very good control environment, that doesn't show you that there will be no risk of material misstatement due to fraud, right? and you have a question related to it. So sometimes they go into layers of the topic to ask you question, right? Now it's a very small topic. People usually skip it. There can be a question to it. I don't know. I want you to learn. You don't have to write this, and you can write this, but first let's read the answer. What does it mean that the control environment, a satisfactory control environment, is not an absolute deterrent of fraud? See, if there is a satisfactory control environment, it is a positive factor, because you will say if the control environment is good, the risk of errors and fraud will be lower in the entity. Yes, it is a positive factor when you assess the risk of material misstatement. However, although it may help you to reduce the risk of fraud, a control environment is not an absolute deterrent of fraud, because there can be deficiencies in a control environment. And these deficiencies in control environment may undermine the effectiveness of control. And then they have given an example. If management is failing to commit sufficient resources to address the IT security, information security risk, it may adversely affect the internal controls by allowing improper changes made to the computer programs or data, or unauthorized transaction to be processed. What is the example they are giving? That, see, when you apply as a management, when you apply in the internal controls, you will apply the controls of through all the process, and all the process in a business is run by the IT system, right? So if you do not have a proper, if there is some failure in your IT security, what will happen? Anybody can change the computer programs. Anybody can actually put an unauthorized transaction into the system. So even though you have a good IT system, if you fail to put a proper controls, or the controls are insufficient, it will have the effect on the transaction that you're processing. So you cannot guarantee that just because the control environment is good, you will not find any risk of error or risk of fraud, right? As per SA 330, the control environment also influences the nature, timing, and extent of further audit procedure. Obviously. So for example, let's understand the process or journey of an auditor. First, you accept an engagement as per SA 210, right? Then you go ahead and do the audit. Before you do the audit, you have to plan the audit as per SA 300. Once you have done the planning of audit as per SA 300, you go ahead and try to identify and assess the risk of material misstatement. When you identify the risk of material misstatement, you also have to calculate materiality as per SA 320. Once you have identified the risk and you have determined your materiality, you respond to those risks in SA 330. And when you respond, ICI tells you to perform further audit procedure. What are these further audit procedure? You have to test controls. You have to test details, or you will apply analytical procedures. Yes. And how do you do all this? This is explained in chapter 4 and chapter 5. They have given you the actual real life examples. How do you do the audit in a different cases? So what they are saying is, once you understand these controls as per SA 315, then you will be able to design your further audit procedure as per SA 330. Are you able to connect these dots while they are saying this, guys? So that is why, as per SA 330, the control environment also influences the nature, time, and extent of further audit procedure. FAP. FAP is given in SA 330. However, please understand, any entity's control environment in itself cannot prevent and detect or correct a misstatement. There has to be control activity. Just because you have a good control environment and you feel, oh my god, management is so smart, they have they have released the policies for the ethical values, moral principle, this and that doesn't mean that people will not do the fraud. No, right? Then you have to find out whether there are actually control activities that is being performed or not. So it may, however, influence the auditor's evaluation of effectiveness of other controls. For example, monitoring of controls, operation of specific controls, and thereby auditor's assessment of risk of material misstatement. So what they are saying is that just because you know that the control environment may not detect and prevent the misstatement, that does not mean that you don't understand control environment only. You please understand, because it will help you determine the risk of material misstatement. Got it? First, they have told you that there is some limitation to control environment. Then they are telling you even though there is limitation to control environment, you still understand the control environment so that you are able to assess the risk of material misstatement. There is no guarantee that you will be able to find the fraud, or this control environment will be able to detect the error or fraud. There is no guarantee, but still it will help the auditor to identify the risk of material misstatement. Guys, are you getting this question? This is thoda technical, but you will have to spend just extra 1 minute to learn this. Please spend that time over here. I'll pause the recording for a minute. You please learn this point. And if you feel that you're not able to understand this, please tell me. Environment. Now, once you have understood the control environment completely, we have to cover what is the second component I told you guys? Entities risk assessment process. Right? So please understand this. I will use my notes just to explain you this content for a moment, and then we can find if there is a question to it. If not, you will learn from here only, right? What does it say? Please understand the second component is entities risk assessment process. Now, you as an auditor want to assess the risk. That is very good, because that is what ICI is telling you to do. But think from an entity point of view. If had it been your own business, don't you think it will be your primary responsibility to assess the risk? Yes. Any risk to your any risk that is hampering your financial statement, any business risk that is that is impacting your profitability, earning capability, any risk that shows that your employees are doing the fraud, all these risks are to identify that risk. It is your primary responsibility as a management, right? So first, when you go into the client place, you have to ask client, please tell us, how do you assess the risk? Because if your client says that I do not assess the risk, that means they would not have even implemented the internal controls. See, in order to implement internal control, you have what is the base of internal controls? Identification and assessment of risk. Priya, are you here with me? Right? So if the stage 1 itself is missing, risk assessment, then how do you ensure that internal controls are operating effectively or not, right? So you have to understand whether the entity has their own process of identifying the business risk. The entity is also estimating the significance of risk. The entity is also assessing the likelihood of their occurrence, like what is the probability that risk will occur. And entity also has the process of deciding action to address those assessed risk. What did I tell you on this point, guys? When you have to understand entity's risk assessment process, please understand whether entity has a process of identifying business risk. Then entity is estimating the significance of importance of those risks. Then entity is actually estimating the likelihood of that risk to occur, and entity is also deciding about the action to address those assessed risk. Pooja, can you please repeat what are the 4 steps four steps that entity will do in order to do the risk assessment that you need the understanding of?
Yes, ma'am. First of all, we need to identify the business risk that is relevant to the financial reporting objectives, and then estimating the significance of that risk, assessing the likelihood of their occurrence, and then deciding about actions to address those identified risks.
Who is doing all this?
The auditor.
The auditor is understanding whether management is doing this or not.
Okay.
Clear, Amrita, Priya, everyone, Nirai? Right? Then, entity's risk assessment process becomes the basis for how management determined risk needs to be managed. Right? And that is why If this process is inappropriate or it is appropriate, it will help you identify the risk of material misstatement. So there, ICA is trying to tell you that why do you need to understand that entities are identifying and assessing the risk, because you also need to assess the risk of material misstatement. So if you understand whether the management is doing it or not, on the basis of which you can determine what can be the risk of material misstatement in the entity's financial statement, right? Yes or no? The last point of this whole topic is risk can change or arise. In a business, risk can change or arise due to what factors? Due to new technology, new business model, new products or service, or change in the operating environment. This is the last point of entity's risk assessment process, that auditor needs to understand that in a business, risk can change or arise due to new technology, new business model, new product service, and changes in the operating environment. Do you have this content in your books, guys? As it is, whatever we have studied so far? Just let me see if I have a question on the risk assessment process or not. This is a question on control activity. This is the component. This is monitoring of control. This is understanding of information system. We have. Can we write this over here, guys? At least we will be able to memorize the points effectively. Give the reference of question number 25. As per SA 315, auditor shall obtain understanding of whether entity has a process for A. What was the first one? Amrita? Amrita, were you checking your phone or what? Why were you smiling?
No,
Sorry, I caught you off guard. That was not the intention though. Can you please say what was the first one?
identifying the business risk.
Whether entity has a process of identifying business risk relevant for financial reporting process. B, whether entity has process of estimating the significance of risk, whether entity is assessing the likelihood of their occurrence, and D, whether entity has process of deciding about actions by to address those risk. Which risk? This risk, right? Then in this answer, please also add both the extra points that we have studied just now. Entities risk assessment process becomes the basis for how management manages those risks, which, if found appropriate, can help auditor in identifying risk of material misstatement. Yes. Risk can arise or change due to new technology, new product or service, new business model. What is the last one?
Changes in operating environment.
Changes in operating environment. Do you think this question can be asked for 4 marks easily? Right? And they will expect you to write the exact point. So you cannot write anything extra, don't reduce. You are spending so much of time in learning how to answer, no? Your goal has to be to remember these points exactly. Take that extra effort to learn the exact points. There are 90% of the students who are going to leave this chapter. I'm telling this to you. This chapter is not that easy to cover. So, but if you are taking that extra effort, make sure that you are presenting your answer. I'm telling this to you. If rest of the students are getting 55 to 60 marks, you would be getting 70 plus because you did chapter 3. Right? Because chapter 3 questions are anyway going to come easily for 10 to 12 marks. If you don't study this chapter well, what will happen? Straight away, you can't attempt chapter 2. You cannot just leave chapter 3 in optional questions, right? Because it may be asked in the compulsory question. What will you do then? It will be asked in the MCQ. What will you do then? Right? So please ensure that you are learning the exact points. Now, how many components are remaining? Information system, control activities, monitoring of internal controls, right? Chalo. Let's go to the next one. Come to question number 24, guys. The auditor shall obtain understanding of the entity's information system, including its related business processes, relevant financial reporting, including class of transaction in the entity's operation that are significant to the financial statement, comma, control surrounding the general entries, and explain other considerations in this regard. What is the question? That entity's information system is being used to process transactions, right? So you need to understand how many processes go through the information system, how many transactions are processed through this information system, and what are the controls around it. And that is why, even though you have not studied IT as a subject before in your life, still ICAI gives you training related to IT. So that at least you will have the basic understanding when you go to a client place. When you go to CA final, you will have to do the advanced ITT trainings. Again, in which they will teach you how to use the audit software, how to go through how to process all that data that entity produces from your audit software so that you can find out the risk in it. How do you understand the entity's entire process? Right? Now, the auditor shall obtain understanding of information system, including the related business process relevant to financial reporting, including following areas. First, you have to understand the class of transaction. Which class of transaction? Which are significant to the financial statement. Second, you have to understand how those transactions are initiated, recorded, processed, and corrected and transferred to the ledgers and reported in the financial statement. Third, you have to understand on what basis they have processed those transactions, accounting records and supporting information, the bills, the purchase order copy, the customer order copy. Right? You have to see the related accounting record. So see, for example, if you pass any general entries, you need to have, like, for example, how do you make the depreciation entry? There has to be some calculation, some Excel file, some Word file where you did the calculation of the gross value of fixed asset, then what is the depreciation rate, then you have calculated the depreciation. So you have to find those supporting information for that journal entry. Yes. so that you can understand how the transaction is initiated, recorded, and processed and reported transaction. Then you have to understand how the entity's information system captures the event and transaction that are significant to financial statement. Like for example, if you have to pass the provision of bad debt or provision for obsolete inventory, right? How system will identify that for this particular data I have to take the provision, for this particular inventory I have to take the provision? There has to be some coding, some system, logic fit into the system, so that system understands, yeah, I have to, process, I have to pass one journal entry for the provision for obsolete inventory every month end. Yes, Pooja, are you here? Then you also have to understand the financial reporting process, which is used by the entity in preparation of financial statement, and you will have to understand the controls surrounding the journal entries. Please learn all these 6 points as it is in entities information system. You have to first understand the class of transaction which are important to the financial statement. Then you have to understand how those transactions are initiated, recorded, processed, and corrected. Then you have to understand what are the supporting documents to those transactions. Then how information system identifies those event and condition that are significant to financial statement. How the entity's financial reporting process works to prepare the financial statement, and what are the controls regarding the general entries. See, gone are the days when the financial statements are prepared in a piece of paper. Now entity just passes single journal entry and it will reflect directly into the P&L and the balance sheet with their effect through the information system. So that is why they are writing this point. So understand how the financial reporting process works and what are the controls regarding the journal entry. Yes? Take your time to memorize this, please. Guys, shall we do the next one? So we have understood the control environment. We have understood the entities risk assessment process. We have understood the entities information system. Now we have to understand the control activities. Now this is an easy point, fairly easy point. Control activities are the actual actions that entity has taken to ensure that the control is working. How do they do that? Like for example, if it is my organization, I will decide up to 2,000 rupees my purchase guy can make all the expenditure on his own. He doesn't have to come to me. But for one invoice, if the expenditure increases 2,000 rupees, he has to come to me to take my sign before making that expenditure. Be it any expenditure. My printing guy also needs to take my approval before deciding on anything or any supplier or anyone. Yes? So when I'm deciding who will take whose approval, whose signature, Who will do what? Who will check what? Like, who has, some other person has done the work, some other has to verify. When I'm deciding all these things, these are called the control activities in an organization. Right? Priya, can you please read question number 21 first so that we understand how this question can be asked in the exam?
The auditor of PQR Limited, a company engaged in the manufacturing of auto parts, obtains an understanding of control activities relevant to the audit, which the auditor considers necessary to assess the risks of material misstatement. The auditor is of the view that he requires an understanding of only those control activities related to significant class of transactions, account balances, and disclosure in the financial statements, and the assertions which the auditor finds relevant in his risk assessment process. Advice explaining the meaning of control activities. Also identify and explain the control activities which are relevant to the audit.
Which are relevant to the audit. So they have asked everything around it, around the control activities that is there in your syllabus, in your topic, right? Now, the auditor shall take the understanding of the control activities relevant to the audit, which the auditor considers necessary to assess the risk of material misstatement. See, in chapter 3, you are doing only the assessment of risk of material misstatement. So you will have to do everything that is given in chapter 3 in order to understand if there is any risk of material misstatement in the financial statement. And that is the reason you need the understanding of the control activities related to the transaction, account balances, and disclosures in the financial statement and any other assertions. Right? Then what are the control activities? Control activities are the policies and procedures. How do we determine control activities? They are the policies and procedure that helps the ensure that the management directives are carried out. If you want to understand that in my business, when you come as an auditor and if you want to check like in how whether the controls are working effectively or not, first you will talk to me that Madhu, can you give me what are the instructions you have given or what are the directions you have given to your team members or your staff to maintain the controls? Then I will give you that piece of document that I'll call it as a policy control manual. And I will tell you, these are my control and manuals. Please go ahead, read and then verify. So you collect that piece of paper from me as a policy. Yes. Then control activities, whether within IT or manual system, has various objectives and are applied at various organization and functional levels. Like for every day. So it's not like that I am going to apply all the controls only in the purchase department. No. It's not like. So it has to be sales department. If it is HR department, if it is purchase department, if it is like logistics department, if it is IT department, in all these departments and all the functional levels, I am going to apply the control activities. What are those control activities? Authorization. A single customer order, a single purchase order, a single purchase invoice, a single customer invoice, these needs to be authorized by someone. Someone will sign these documents. Or either if it is manual, then they will sign the piece of paper. If it is in the system, they will authorize or approve in the computer system. There shall be segregation of duty. Have you gone to have you seen have you gone visited bank physically to any bank? Right? You must have seen that some people sit at the counter. Do you really think these are the people who are also involved in handling the cash in their treasury department? No. These are only the counter people who are making the entries into the system and they are collecting the cash. But they are not the one depositing the cash in the locker because there is a segregation of duty. Then the physical control of the assets will be with somebody else. Information processing will be done by someone else. Then there will be performance reviews. Performance reviews, whether I will check in every 3 months whether my team members are performing according to what I have suggested to them or not. That is all you needed to learn as part of the control activities. The below question is a different question and it tells you what are the control activities that are relevant. It is in the same topic, but the question here is what are the control activities relevant to the audit? Any controlled activity that is relevant to that is related to the significant risk. Which significant risk? Especially those risks for which the substantive procedures alone do not provide sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. Are you understanding what is substantive procedures? For example, me checking a document, a piece of paper, like I am going to the client place and I'm telling the client, I want to do the audit of your sales. Please give me all the sales invoices, physical copies. And I'm then checking, oh, rate is good. Okay, customer name is correctly written. Okay, the address is good. GST is calculated. This is called the substantive testing procedures. But the problem is, it may not give you the full comfort for every single transaction. If there is a significant risk, what is the risk in the sales? That company may have inflated their sales, or there can be some fraud done by the employees in the sales transaction. So for those things, you have to understand the controls first. Test whether the controls were operating properly or not. Don't just go and check the details of the transaction. Yes. Control activities are relevant to the audit are those that are considered to be relevant in the judgment of auditor. How do you determine which control is relevant for the audit, which you think is relevant for the audit, right? You, as per your judgment, you feel it is an important control to understand. As part of the risk assessment, the auditor shall determine whether any risk identified are in auditor judgment is a significant risk. So for you to understand which control are relevant, please understand whether that risk is a significant risk. If the risk is significant significant to you, related controls are important for the audit. If it is on very nominal risk and it is not going to impact the financial statement, do not worry much then you are fine. You don't have to test the controls. Are you understanding what did I related over here? I related risk. If risk is significant, if you think that this is a significant risk, please check related control. That is all they are saying in this point 3. Please process this information because we are reaching to the end of control environment and I have to teach you the monitoring activities. But before that, you need to understand this topic, control activities topic. Done, guys? Shall we move to the last topic of component of internal controls? Monitoring of control. See, what if I tell you that I am going to implement the controls, right? And it has been 5 years since I implemented the controls. There is so much change has happened in my organization. I am teaching more than 1,000 students. I have like 3-4 more faculties. I have such a huge team and I did not change a single thing in my controls. Do you really think any controls is going to be relevant if it is not changed, modified according to the change in size, change in the size of the company or the nature of entity's work? No, it won't be relevant. No. So what is the meaning of monitoring of controls? People who are responsible for designing, implementing, and maintaining the controls, they also have to monitor the controls. The auditor shall obtain an understanding of the major activities that entities uses to monitor the controls over financial reporting. Monitoring of control is a process to assess the effectiveness of internal control performance over time. Why it is important? It helps in assessing the effectiveness of controls on a timely basis. Because if you find any deficiency, at least you will be able to take the remedial action. How does management accomplishes monitoring of control? Through ongoing activities, or they can do the separate evaluation. See, as a management, if I want to check if the control is working, operating effectively or not, I can only verify the ongoing transaction which are happening, or I can, I can take my separate evaluation. Like I will just stop everything that is going on. I'll do the evaluation. I'll just take some of the transaction from the sales and purchase to see whether authorization has worked, whether the rate controls are there, whether all the controls are working effectively, or I can do the combination of both. So that the way I have explained you for ongoing monitoring activities, it will be done as part of the normal recurring sales purchase transaction. Right? What all is included in the management's monitoring activity? It may include using information from communication from external parties such as customer complaint, regulatory comments. For example, if a customer has made a complaint that the quality of the goods is not maintained, automatically you understand that your quality checking people are not doing any work, right? As a management, if I start to get the complaints from the students that it's been like 6 days since I have enrolled for the course, I have not got the recording, then what does my team is doing, right? Are you understanding what will happen if you have to understand the communication received from the external parties to understand if there are any complaints or the regulatory comments for you to understand whether where exactly the controls are not operating and what are the areas for the improvement. Right? Management's monitoring of control is often accomplished by management's or the owner manager's close involvement in the operation. See, if I tell you that I will only teach, I have nothing to do with the students. If I hire two people and I tell you only handle the students, I don't even want to communicate to the students. I don't like, if any question, anybody calls to get the question or something, I don't even want to answer, you handle yourself. So unless and until I'm actually involved in the operation, how I'm going to know that there is any problem? Are you understanding why what they are saying with the last point? Management's own involvement in the operation will actually determine whether the controls are operating effectively or not. They will be able to identify that way. Right? And this involvement by the management will identify significant variances from the expectation and inaccuracy in the financial data, leading to remedial action to the controls. Guys, can you please summarize this point in your own language? Like, just keeping the keywords as it is, can you write this point in 5 small sentences? Break down and make it into 5 small sentences so that you will be able to remember till exam. One, I want you to write about how monitoring helps in verifying the effectiveness of controls on timely basis. Second, how can you do that? Can you do it in ongoing activities, separate evaluation, or combination of both? Third, communication received from external parties. Fourth, management's involvement in the operations. And fifth, involvement identifying the significant variances and inaccuracies. Done, guys? Which point are you writing now? Pooja, have you completed? Amrita, you too? Okay. Niray? Priya, last point? Now, will you do one thing today, guys? Because you have understood the control environment part fully. Still, there are few topics that you still need the knowledge of. But it will not be hard for you to understand. Rather, like for example, how much we have covered in the class itself today till component, you have done everything. So what is pending? That is your uh, controls relevant to the audit, controls over completeness and accuracy of information, safeguarding of assets, control relating to objectives that are not relevant to an audit, and nature and extent of understanding the relevant controls. I want you guys to try some of these questions on your own. Will you be able to do that today? Will you get some time in the night, like before you sleep, to complete the questions? Tell me honestly, because see, for me, like this is like, you know, doing each and every question. Some of the chapters has like more, like one topic has more than 10, 12, 15 questions. So that way we will not be able to cover this like a regular class, but I will give you enough understanding so that you are able to do or solve these questions on your own. Will you submit the writing by tonight or by tomorrow morning? What do you say?
Yes, ma'am.
So what you have to do is you have to solve this question, take a photo of it, send it in the group. Right? You have the PDF
Yeah.
of this question bank, all of you. You have it now. Okay, perfect. Try this question, guys. And from chapter this tomorrow, I will do essay 320 and essay 330 questions. Right? Right now in chapter 3 we will complete only these three topics. Why? There are many topics under this. You also know that it is a big topic, but if we end up doing like giving 1 week to chapter 3, we will not be able to complete rest of our syllabus in time. So we will give the importance to all the questions that may be asked from 320 and 330. We have already done 315 very much in detail. So let's focus tomorrow on chapter 3, and after that we will take after that, what chapter you want to take? You tell me. Go for from the difficulty point of view. Like, you know, what chapter is still difficult?
Evidence, audit evidence.
Audit evidence, chapter 4.
Yeah.
Can you still find a more difficult chapter than that? Chapter 4. We will do chapter 4. Like I'm really good at teaching chapter 4. But what else?
Last portion of ethics, SQC 220.
SQC 1 220.
Special features, chapter 9.
So yeah, let's do that. Like for example, this SQC1, SA220 and the chapter 4, these are called logical chapters, right? So anyway, you will be able to remember that when I'll teach you that in class. What you won't be able to remember on your own is chapter like chapter 3, chapter 9, chapter 5 questions, right? So can we do chapter 9 after tomorrow? So that at least it is again logical only. I'm not saying those chapters are not logical, but you have to memorize it a lot. It's like every point is like verification vouching. So at least if we take 2 days and finish chapter 9, whatever we can in 2 to 3 days, you will be like, okay, I'm not zero in that chapter 9, at least, right? But have you done chapter 9 before? All four of you? Pooja has done. Nirai, no.
No,
Priya,
no, ma'am.
not. Priya, Amrita.
No.
Okay, Pooja, you have done it well, like completely well, the chapter. But will you be interested in writing the answers?
I just know the basics, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, you will be interested. No, so like, I just want it to be beneficial for all of four of you. So let's finish chapter essay 330 and 320 tomorrow. We'll do the questions of it. We will understand the concept, and then we will jump to chapter 9. Done? Shall we close for today? What do you say? All right, please submit the questions to me for the remaining 5 topics. Please submit it by tomorrow morning in the group.
So the remaining questions in this under this topic, ma'am.
Yes. Remaining questions.
Like
And
in the
for
question
whatever
bank
topic we
cover,
don't
ma'am.
have the question, just revise it from your concept book only, right? Because you will be able to memorize it now. That much confidence I have. Yes. Anyone was saying anything?
Ma'am, only 2 questions are there. Like
Yeah, question
the
like
two-
list of the questions are not there, I realized, but at least go through like, you know, at least one go through the concept so that you know exactly what to write. Like it's not like, you know, you just have to memorize everything, but try to you know, logically grab whatever you can. If the question is asked from those topics, see, one of the component question is getting asked in the exam, that is for sure. I know that we have covered like thoroughly, writing, learning, everything. One of these topic may be asked, I feel, from chapter 3. So that is why I'm just saying go through it today so that you are like, you know, done with that topic.
Okay, ma'am.
Cool. Then see you guys tomorrow. All right. Consider your class timing to be 1 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. daily. Reason being, I will take some 15-20 minutes break, like, you know, in between for my lunch. Works? So please reserve that time for your classes every day. All right. Then see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Welcome. Bye, dear.